So last week we looked quite a bit more into equipment and the different microphones, and what I didn't get to was remote recording, which is I want to spend a chunk of time at the start of today on, because when it comes to podcasting, often you won't have the use of that lovely studio where you work in your radio station. You might have to be doing it from home. You might have to be doing it from someone's office, whatever it might be. Okay. And it's not rocket science. Okay. However, I often hear people who publish remotely recorded interviews who just could have, with a couple of tiny steps, done it so much better. Okay. If it didn't come across last week, it's going to come across this week. I'm painful when it comes to audio quality and just trying to make it as good as possible. I'm a total annoying nerd about it. And the thing is, I think not that you have to be as bad as me, but you do really, really have to achieve the highest audio quality possible, because there's just so much good stuff out there. You would have got away with scrappy sounding material a few years ago, or even a couple of years ago, but now there is just too much good stuff because there's been so much investment in podcasting. And look, let's face it, we're at this call of all, us as a group of anyone, understand how important high quality audio is. So I know we all want to achieve it. None of us don't want to achieve it. So what I'm going to share with you today are some of the things that I had to learn the hard way in order to achieve it over the last couple of years, particularly during the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. But so we'll cover off that. And then I want to go into some of the kind of marketing your podcast as well in relation to video and audiograms and robot created videos. So I'm going to show you a couple of bits of software that you may or may not currently use. If you don't, you'll enjoy using them. If you do, maybe you're not using them to their full extent, but we can kind of come to that a little bit later as well. But what I did ask you to do, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this as I did last week, because we've a pile to get through today and we can cover off more on December 8th. But I asked you if you had time to, you all had great ideas for podcasts last week. But most of them needed that little bit of refinement, that little bit of kind of polishing up and stripping back, so that you basically could tell someone in 2 or 3 sentences what your podcast is about, okay? And what's the value in it, that it's just screaming difference, uniqueness, and value, okay? So refining it, and then ideally recording a little voicer, a little voice track, something that resembled a trailer, like an audio version of that written series description that we went through last week. Okay. Now, before I go around and embarrass anyone, did anyone not get a chance to do the whole? You see, you didn't get a chance, Martin. That's fine. Killian. Oh, you're very sheepish. You only just stuck a little finger up.
Yeah, so. That's because I'm half. I didn't manage to develop my idea into a trailer, but because I'm obviously producing the breakfast show and the Uncensored podcast is fairly new, I just wanted to make a trailer for that, if that was okay.
Yeah, of course. Oh, 100%. Anything.
Podcast I will be doing. Like, I probably won't be using my idea. It'll probably be more Megan will be doing the takeover stuff. I just
That's grand.
Develop an already existing, if that was okay, but I have a trailer done for that.
No bother.
Slightly broke the rules, but apologies.
Yeah, oh no, you have a good explanation there. You got out of that one very well. Anyone else that that doesn't want to be selected randomly?
No, well, I have one, but I did it very quickly this morning after dropping the kids to creche, because I forgot about it and remembered it at 2 a.m. So roped in an old radio friend to do the other voice for me.
Oh, wow.
Very kindly obliged.
Well, this is impressive. We've got a team already.
But it's not like I listened back to it literally at 9:56. The music, I should have just let run straight through. I broke it up and looped it, and it doesn't sound good. So I'm going to admit that flaw straight off the bat. But otherwise, I'm fairly happy with it for something produced between 8 and 10 a.m.
Well, listen, isn't that what it's all about? A fast turnaround, no messing around. That's brilliant. Okay, sure. Look, why don't we start, if you don't mind, Sandra? Let's start with yourself. And I'm not going to go around to everyone. What we might do is over the course of the call get to everyone, but I really want to be sure we get through as much as we can today. But I will be on our slot on December the 8th. If we don't get you today, I will be looking for great stuff on the 8th, because then you have no excuse. You have tons of time. Anyway. Okay, so look, are you happy enough to share it straight from your laptop there?
That's
brilliant.
Fine.
And are you comfortable with how to, you may have done it a million times, but not everyone does.
Oh, to share the audio. I should be able to.
This is for everyone. So you click the share screen in the middle of your sort of Zoom thing there, but there's a box will open up, and there's a little box down the bottom.
Sorry,
left.
I'm on an iPad and I'm not seeing share screen.
Okay. I'm not sure where that would be. So I'll tell you. I might. I'm not sure with the iPad because I actually don't have one, so I don't know where. Anyone shared screen from an iPad before? No. Okay. I might leave you just figured out there for a few minutes, Sandra, and we'll come back to you in a little bit if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Kaya, did you get a chance to? Oh, you didn't want your name called out.
No, I didn't. I did get a chance, but I didn't want you to call my name. I did do it, and it makes me cringe a lot.
That's often a good sign. It means you pushed yourself.
I can try play it. I'm really bad when it comes to sharing screens and sound, and I'm blushing, so I can try do it.
Don't worry. We'll get straight to it. So do you have a share screen option on your screen? Okay. The important thing is to click that, but then also to click on the bottom left of the box that opens up, you have share sound. It's an extra little box to tick. Okay. And then you can click share, and then we're either going to see your screen or whatever you decide that we see is what should pop up. But that share sound is important.
Can you see this?
Yes. Lovely.
Okay. And hopefully you can't see my face when I play this. I'm going to give you no description, just listen. And I'm not proud of this. That's all I'm going to say. So, 1 second.
Sometimes home chooses us. And other times we need to find home. Kerry is a wonderful kingdom, but why exactly do people decide to start a life here? Is it the charm of the Kerry people?
There'd be a full moon there about night, and it should be bright out, and there could anyone go up in the mountains about night, sure?
Or is it the beautiful landscape that surrounds our county? Why Kerry is a new podcast where we go out and about to find the stories from people who decided to move to Kerry and why they decided to settle here. Why Kerry? Coming to a podcast platform near you.
Kaya, that was fantastic.
Indeed.
Brilliant. Well, virtual claps here all around. My God, you really set yourself up for a fall there.
That was class.
Totally delivered. Well done. That had everything, to be honest with you. Like, God, you had your music, you had a lovely voice track, and it was very well written and refined. You had your sound effects, you had your bit of comedy. Well done. That was genuinely so good and really nicely all mixed together. Like your levels were perfect and everything like that. So
I'm actually really right. I don't know. I was looking for something like cheesy Kerry accents, and then I went on YouTube and I saw a report Sean McAtee did back in West Kerry. Yeah. About a man whose sheep were stolen, and he just had the perfect voice. So took it from there.
It has a lovely mix of everything. So well done. And that's like, again, a good trailer just makes you go, yeah, I'd have a listen to that. Do you know what I mean? That the person who put together the trailer obviously has a feel for a little bit of comedy, a little bit of, good production, all that kind of stuff. And it's going to be a kind of immersive experience because the sound effects kind of give us a little picture. And I think, and it's really light touch, and it only has to be light touch, So well done, Kaya. Thank you very, very much. Well done.
So cool.
Anyone want to go next? I'll look for a volunteer before I have to volunteer ye. Okay, Sean, good man. Let's do it.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Good man. So do you want to tell us about it first, or do you just want to crack straight in?
Yeah, it was just can you hear me again?
Yep.
Yeah, no,
did
all
you
this
click
was
the share sound button on
I did, yeah.
Perfect.
I love the homework in the title.
Oh yeah.
The podcast
Sean, podcast homework. No, this is just a continuation from the fantasy football that I was saying. And I try to keep it. It's not as long as Kaya's, but I sort of try to get a bit cheesy with the music and try to drag people in from the very start. So I'll throw it on there, no?
Go for it.
How do you fancy having the bragging rights in your WhatsApp groups and reigning supreme in your fantasy football leagues? If you do, I've got you covered. Fantasy football has consumed football fans across the globe, and I'm here to help you get a leg up on the opposition. From advice on hidden gems to the players you simply cannot miss, we are in this together. From weekly shows to an endless support community, Beats Fantasy Roundup is your one stop for those extra points this fantasy season. I'm Sean Connolly. Let's hit the back of the net together.
Killer line at the end.
Yeah.
Best to last. Well done. Very nice. And you know what? Lovely and concise. And the thing is, I don't know, did we talk last week just about this idea of ruthless editing? Maybe it was the first day, just being a ruthless editor and putting nothing in your audio that doesn't absolutely have to be there. So I think you really encapsulate that with just, what is it, 35 seconds?
Like 40 seconds or something, I think. Yeah, or 36 seconds. Yeah. 30,
excellent. Like just lovely and thing, very, very slim back. Do you write reports?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can tell it's just like perfect economy of words and stuff like that. So really, really nice. Couple of things. I would consider the only, unfortunately, like the Lizzo track is brilliant in it. The only thing is we may not be able to use the Lizzo track on a digital platform.
Yeah,
so we might have to find.
I took it off of our copy of our instrumentals inside. That was all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. And listen, you may be totally aware. It just brings up that music rights thing that even something as small as that, it's ridiculous. But you know what? Production libraries can offer you such things that are so close to the real thing. So sometimes if we really want to get that sound, that it is like that commercial sound of a specific artist, like they're out there. Do you know what I mean? They really are.
I obviously misinterpreted what you were saying. I thought this was just literally just an exercise for the podcast. That was all. So I just put together some,
no, absolutely. That's it. It's just to it reinforces that whole kind of tricky situation about the music anyway, but totally get it. And maybe you could underpin it with the little roar of a crowd or something like that in those first few seconds. You said something that made me think, wouldn't it be, dominate your thing or whatever, but it's lovely, really nice sound, lovely, a little bit of cheese, and it'd be perfect for the target audience. So I really hope you make that podcast, by the way. I think there's something in it. Huh?
Yeah, it'd be cool. Yeah, I'd like to.
Yeah, I think there's something in it for sure. And it could be quite, it wouldn't be a massive drain on your time. You're into it anyway.
It'd be really quick. Take like 10 minutes. That's all.
Yeah, there you go.
We found that during the pandemic when we had, like a lot of places, 4 hours of sports planned. What the hell do we do? So one of the lads came up with the Fantasy Football League. And then I think they even went and they said it's the Lithuanian Fantasy Football League. So people really had to do the homework. They weren't saying, oh, well, I support United or I support Liverpool. They really had to go for it, Mad stuff. Mad.
Yeah. Oh, really?
It worked, really popular.
Nice one. Okay, listen, thanks a million, Sean. Any volunteer for next one? We'll take a couple more.
Yeah, I can go next, but I cannot share my screen or my audio. So I'm going to play it from my phone, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, just so nice and close to
the only workaround that I can think of. So I introduced my idea with Sean Defoe and yourself last week at the end. So nobody else has heard it. Essentially, it's based on the idea of Normal Gossip, which is an American podcast, it's a journalist and a different contributor every week. And she gets people to send her stories and she then voices them. She kind of writes them and voices them. So it's your best gossip anonymized. It's perfect. But Irish people love gossip and we love a story. And I don't know about all of you, but I absolutely live for the gossip from my friends, work colleagues, who I have no idea who they are, what they look like, but I want to know everything about them. And I want to know what they're wearing. And I want to know why the girl wore leather pants to, a board meeting or whatever. I'm just like, give it to me. Give it all to me. I want it all. Because I have no investment in it. So that's why I like it. So I decided that an Irish version of this, and specifically a Limerick version, would work really well. So it would probably have, the working title at the moment is That's Limerick Goss Kid. And obviously Kid has like a load of eyes because, it's Limerick. So this is very Irish, very thrown together this morning. As I said, the flaw that I'm going to admit from the beginning is that I looped the audio. I should have just let it play through, but it was a mad panic this morning. So hopefully you can hear it. If you can't, let me know. We all love a good story. Better yet, if we don't even know the person that it's about.
if a stranger has been cheated on, had a dramatic end to a holiday, or once had their toddler pee in their mouth. Let's face it, we all find it hilarious and we lap it up. This girl I know, she'd gone away for the weekend with her husband and her mother-in-law, was minding the 3 girls at their house. It was a weekend, it's a busy house, washing needs to be done. So the girl left instructions about what could go in the dryer, what could put in the clothes horse or line. Standard enough stuff, you know. So she came home to find the clothes horse half empty and every item just hanging over one rung, like not spread out at all. These clothes would never have tried. Now, get this. This is an Irish grandmother, and she used the dryer in her own house all the time and has very clearly never used a clothes horse. She has to be the only person in Ireland. I'm completely baffled. This kind of typically Irish story and much juicier stories, don't worry, they won't be all about appliances, is what this podcast brings you. Real stories from people around Limerick. Real life gossip, which we anonymise and share with you.
So there you go.
Excellent.
One of the most boring stories ever, but it was literally a very fresh story from this weekend because that actually happened to me. I still have wet clothes in my...
Oh, you serious?
utility.
That's not boring at all. Like I actually found my blood starting to rise when I heard that because I could just picture the stuff where you come back and it's got that terrible smell of stuff that's been left damp. It drives me crazy.
Oh, anyway, yeah, there you go. Very Irish, very Irish.
Oh, I love that. I think you stumbled on a really good idea there because I think I think, like you say, just people love just any kind of stories like that. The kind of bit of a goss, bit of a thing there.
And kind of harmless is the idea. Like you don't want her life has been ruined and she had to move out of the house. And no, it's all harmless. Like, oh, this is a bit of crack kind of gossip.
And you know what? Like you see that mix in the podcast charts all the time. It seems to be a mix of absolutely horrendous crime and tragedy, and then also complete frivolous, harmless stuff like Vogue and Joanne and Tommy and Hector. Like people need the two, you know what I mean? They need that mix. And I'd say the same people are listening to both types because one leads to the other.
Definitely. I need one as an antidote to another. Definitely.
That's it. Yeah. So in terms of a trailer, really, really well voiced. I love the sort of over the top detective music to that, you know, that's like,
I literally, like I messaged to the girl whose voice it is. She used to work on Spin. She now works in the ETV in Galway. So she has a great voice and she literally got out of bed with a 6-month-old and did that for me this morning. And I was like, amazing. Star.
Nice one. Fair play. Fair play.
But like, even when I was sending it to her, I was like, is this too suspenseful? Does this give like a crime vibe? And she was like, no, it's a heinous crime.
Yeah. But it works because it's that juxtaposition of something that's not crime really, but is at the same time.
But obviously, as I listen back again, even just there, the looping was terrible. Like,
don't worry, the fact that it wasn't like it was secondhand audio, it just totally disguised it. So you're grand. You've time to cover that over. But well done. And again, just in terms of general trailer best practice, having the clip in there really works, you know. So when you don't just say what you're going to do, play what you're going to do. And the clips, when you have a few bits in the can in terms of guests or stories or whatever, get the teaser clips and pop them in there. It works. It really, really helps to bolster it up quite a bit. So well done, Sandra. Thank you very much. We'll take one more before we kick off. Any volunteers for the last one for our morning session? Go on. Okay, Killian, let's do it.
Yeah, I don't mind sharing it.
Good man.
I have to click share.
So click share, but then that'll open up one box and then share sound.
Share sound,
yeah, that's otherwise we won't hear it so well.
1 sec now.
Yeah, take your time.
I was asking for permission. May not be able to record the contents later. Can you see my screen?
We can't see it yet.
No.
So
here we go. Here. 1 sec. Here we go.
Okay.
I clicked the wrong thing altogether.
Here we go. I can see it now. Okay, excellent.
Daily Dilemma Uncensored has landed. The podcast that's too saucy to share on air.
I've never been whipped.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I don't want to be whipped.
No,
I don't like
it. Sprinkled it along the top. It was like literally having a laugh. And my housemate walked in, right?
I'm so shocked.
Did you like it? Or did you feel awkward?
No, to be honest, it felt like I was at a comedy.
Okay.
You know, like I just laughed my way. Rooftop Roughage, I can still see the front of it.
Catch an Island Show as they reveal and explore the rude, lewd, even crude topics that you, the people of the Southeast, DM us every day. Scandal is very much real. Over 18s only, dropping every Friday wherever you get your podcasts.
That's fantastic. Professional bit of work there. Well done. So is this...
Yeah, it was grand. It was kind of handy that we had, like, I think we're recording our 15th episode today, like, so we had the clips from some of the episodes just throw in. Now there was a real 31 that I had in, and Show was like, you can't put that in a Learning Waves course, you need to take that out. I was like, okay.
Well, now we all want to hear it.
Yeah.
So tell Show...
Yeah, that's kind of the idea, just, you know, some of the stuff that are not too out there, because there's a lot more uncensored bits in it. So I want to kind of scare people off.
You want to ease them in.
Yeah.
No, because that's the one thing that struck me, that obviously that's all about the clips, and you picked really good clips. And what I like about them is you have the little bit of edge, okay, the bit of, you know, I've never been whipped or whatever. You have loads of laughter, which I think is really, really good, because again, you know, this isn't some sort of serious dissection of, you know, of seriously dark material. You're having a laugh about it as well. And it's a bit like, I did, didn't I? The Tinder podcast trailer last week. Same kind of a feel in terms of they want to show you that this isn't like some serious dark stuff. This is actually a laugh as well. So you have plenty of that. And I love the one, and I think it's always, and I always try and get one into Mario's little montage of clips at the start of an episode, the one that's totally out of context. There was one in there, and I can't remember what she said, but it was just like, I have no idea what she's saying. I don't have no idea what this is about, but it really works as a clip, because I think out of context stuff is really nice to have in teaser montages or teaser clips or whatever.
Hates me for that, because I like to take a lot of out of context stuff.
Oh yeah, okay.
Without any context.
Yeah, we'll keep it up because it's good. It does tease the listener, and that's what you want. And obviously the production on it's fantastic. You know, you've got lovely production. The little bit of whatever, the voice goes all mono. And who does the VO on that?
Michelle Heffernan. She
very nice.
Be the work.
Yeah. Very nice.
Just use another voice. Just
no, you've got a fantastic trailer all ready to go. Is it live yet?
I think we have to. We use Publisher Plus to do our podcast, and so I think we need to just figure out how we get a trailer on top. So
okay,
that's more for upstairs than me. So when
fair enough.
It's ready to go.
Just for general purposes down the line, if it ever comes up. You always, when you go to publish an episode on whatever platform whatever podcast publisher you're using, as in whatever media host, it will, before you publish it, it asks you, is this a full episode or a trailer or bonus material? If it's a full episode, it just goes in sequence. Not sure what happens if it's a bonus, but if it's a trailer, it pins it to the top of the podcast platforms. So whatever is marked as a trailer will stay on the very top. So
yeah, I'll have a look at that. I just know it's what we run our website. So like for news stories and whatever sports stories and stuff, we
gotcha.
Our podcasts on our website, but then whatever that does, it dishes them out to
gotcha
Apple Music. But I'll have a look and see if there's any feature like that on it.
Yeah. Well, listen.
Thanks very much, Patrick.
I'm sure that will do well. Thanks a million, Killian. That was great. Cool. Okay. Well, listen, we will come back to a few more later on. Okay. So thanks to everyone so far. Right. Let's kick into remote recording, because it's one of the things that, as I mentioned, it genuinely is a kind of a, let me share this. Actually, have I even shared sound? It's one of the things that you will find. No, I didn't share. The remote recording side of stuff is one of the things that you will find can be most poorly executed by a lot of podcasters, okay? Because there's kind of some steps involved, like there are lots of tiny steps. So it's almost like a process, okay? It's like a pure step-by-step process in order to get yourself as close to studio sound as you can, okay? So all I'm going to do is run through as briefly as I can, and I don't want to get I don't think it will get too technical, but feel free to stop me and just say that again. That made no sense. It's not so much technical, is that there's lots of little bits. Okay, so again, you'll have these slides as part of your playbook to go back and go, God, what was that Ija talking about that day? Oh yeah, I see now. Now I need to record something remotely. So here we go. So Remote recording. Okay, here's the steps, and I'm going to go through these one by one then. Okay. The first thing we need to consider is how you sound on your podcast. Okay. How are you going to sound, and how are we going to get you sounding as good as possible as presenter? Because as presenter, you need to sound the best, or at least equally as good as your guest, as long as your guest sounds fantastic. We may have all, I've certainly heard some podcasts where the presenter is on worse quality audio than the actual guest, and that just feels all wrong. Okay, it can never happen. And the thing is, guests, more and more people have USB microphones, they have headsets, they've got decent gear, just because even for their work they have to do loads of calls and stuff, so their work sets them up on little things. So you have to be always, if not as good, then it's not better, then as good as them. Then there's how your guest will sound. Many of them don't have great setups, or they have no technical understanding whatsoever of how to get themselves sounding good. So we have to help them out with that. There's the space you're recording in. Great if it's your studio, but not so great if it's one of these places that sound like the Dunmore Caves, really high ceilings and outside sound and everything like that. So a few basic things we need to do on that. The recording platform you're using. Often it's going to be Zoom, but as I mentioned last week, I want to talk to you about Zencaster. I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. Then this idea, which I'm actually going to start with, because I'll probably mention it a few times, this idea of multi-track versus stereo mix, single stereo mix recording. Okay, where can I just do a little straw poll? When you guys record an interview in your studios, in the stations, do you get one file, a stereo mix, to the two voices boiled together?
In the studio, yeah, we do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's awful.
Yes, that's it. And
because I can't edit out their cough, or if they talk over something. Or
there you go.
Yeah, just going to say that, Sandra. Yeah, drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's awful. So Sandra Martin, when you're recording out of the studio, if you do, are you recording on single tracks?
Yes.
Okay.
No, sorry, multi-track.
Multi-track. Sorry, I mean that multi-track.
Yeah. So I record. Yeah, I have two different things, and then I can multi-track and I can edit separately.
Because
Brilliant.
You're right. I mean, I interviewed a guy. The best interview I ever did was a music producer. And he said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I've left my other laptop in the room." I looked at the room. It was Aladdin's cave of the best mics for everything.
Wow.
I almost just said, do you know what? Just talk away, because my setup is horrible by comparison. But that was the exception. Most people have, as you said, one of my colleagues has a USB mic, which I told him to get, which I think he puts in another room. He must have a really long lead on his laptop, because it always sounds terrible. So
wow.
I need to go in and sit down with them. And I think maybe it's the point you raised last week, that maybe it is the mic is too far away. It's not built for
100%. Yes.
So, so there's all of that going on.
And this plugs in exactly what I was saying. It can be any one or two or three tiny things that lead to destroying the entire audio. So we'll come to that bit by bit now. Anyone else in the call do multi-track recording? Okay, perfect. Well, look, I'm going to talk about it. Because it is absolutely crucial. It's the biggie as far as I'm concerned. You can hear from Sandra Martin. So let's just start with that before we get into the others. So basically, as I mentioned, a lot of the time, most of the time in radio studios, for some reason, I'm surprised it does still happen, to be honest with you, you will do an interview and you will get back one track, okay, with the two voices melded together. They're blended together in real time into one track, okay? But I even recorded something the other day, and this is probably not there's so many examples of what might happen, but I want you to listen closely to when I finish, and ignore my audio, by the way. Something went wrong, was sounded a bit funny. Here's me saying about all the top audio. My mic was a bit funny that day, so I had to treat it. But when I finish my question, often you're asking someone a question, and your guest takes the opportunity to take a big breath, okay, or a big slurp of tea, or clear their nose or whatever. So this is literally, I did this last week. So small example, but common, and drives me crazy.
It's very hard for me to resist, to keep going. So
Yeah, the passion never died.
No.
So in a way, I guess, even though it drove your parents mad because of the, could you hear that big nasal intake of breath? Let's play it again, just to watch out for it when I'm starting to ask the question. Yeah, the passion never died.
No.
So in a way, I guess, even though it drove your parents mad because of the Lego all over, completely wrecks my head. So as I'm asking my questions, here's my opportunity to take a breath. And this happens all the time. That's a small example. Bigger examples are, you know, someone's in the middle of something really important and my dog bursts into the room and starts barking, or horns going, or whatever it might be. The things you don't want. But when you get a stereo mix, I couldn't take out that breath without losing what I'm saying at the same time, because the two things are blended together. Does that make sense? You cannot actually like remove one without the other because they're boiled down together. So what we try and do is record each guest on their own separate audio track, so we have full control over the actual audio. And I'm going to show you that now in a sec. Sandra?
All right, just something quick. In the studio, as you said, we can only record on the one track.
Yeah.
Now, I control myself and my own tics, you know, out breaths, whatever I need to do, blow my nose, whatever.
Yes.
By turning off my mic.
Yeah.
Am I better off? I've never thought of doing it until this example. Am I better off turning off their mic when I'm talking?
Yeah, that's the thing. So
Like,
often in the studio scenario,
and I don't know how I've never thought of doing
yeah.
So basically, I only ever turn on and off mine. I leave theirs on all the time.
Yeah. In the studio scenario, the one thing that we do have at our fingertips to control this is the faders.
Okay.
So when you're asking a question, ramp down your fader, because this is the opportunity. Now, sometimes they may get so excited by it to answer your question that they might start trying to come in. That's why we'll take it down maybe 4/5 of the way and then whack it back up if you hear them trying to come in over you.
So ours actually has, it's very strange, in Live 95 we have a button, an on-off button. So I can just turn off their mic and quickly whack it back on at full.
But
we couldn't do that in Tip FM. You couldn't just bring, well, you can do both. You can fade it down or you can press on and off. But so like for the,
but is it a fader?
Oh, it's a fader. Yeah. But it has a button
grand.
at the bottom as well. It just turns it off.
I would probably err on the side of bringing it
Fading.
most of the way down, just in case they want to go, oh yeah, I'm so glad you asked me that, Sandra, and you're losing all that, because that's nice as well. Do you know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
No worries. What some studio desks will have as well is gates, where basically when there is no audio going into a mic, whether it's yours or your guests or your guest number 2 or 3, the gate shuts them off naturally. And as soon as they hear a bit of power coming into the mic, it opens them up again. And what that means, there'll be a certain threshold. So, you know, maybe the little nose whistle is not going to trigger it, but actual voice and a bit of power coming through will trigger it. Okay. So if you are in the situation where you're doing most of this in the studio, maybe talk to the engineer about, first of all, work the faders more maybe than we usually do. And number 2, talk to the engineer about gates, being able to gate the audio, gate the mics when there's audio in. Okay. But when we are recording at home or whatever, let me show you that now. Can you all see my editing software just jumped up there? Yeah. Okay, brilliant. I'm going to show you what that looks like in that case. So audio hardware, and I just want to make sure you can hear all this. Yeah. Okay. So this is the interview I did. Okay. This is the guy with the breath. And if normal cases, if this was a studio, that would just be one file, okay, with the 2 baked in. So let's take a look into where that breath was.
Going, so.
Yeah, the passion never died.
No.
So in a way, I guess, even though it drove your parents, so we can hear the hiss, that was one file I'm missing. I'd have to take out me going. In a way, I guess, even though it drove simply the fact that it's on 2 files, 2 tracks, means I can select that awful bit of hiss and just, that's the little decibel line. I can pull down, basically mute it. That's me turning down the sound. Okay. So essentially we now have passion never died.
No.
So in a way, I guess, even though it drove your parents mad because of the Lego all over, so now it's gone. Okay. I'm going to go through the rest of the track like that. Often where this really works as well is, so you can see the purple is where James is talking, and I'm pulling that down because I've got my mic live in the background. You might hear birds singing outside. You might hear me doing a little cough or whatever. So I'm going to pull down me when I'm not talking. And likewise, anytime he's talking, I'm going to pull vice versa. I'm going to pull myself down. So basically, whenever we don't need a mic, we can kill it. Okay. What it also means is that, you know, like,
it kind of goes through phases, I guess, you know, early on in your education.
What I did was, he was in a kind of a very loud room. Okay.
It's such a broad subject.
It was a little bit roomy and stuff like that. Whereas I was in the room I was in was fine. So what I wanted to do was take out the room noise from him, and I wanted to boost his EQ a little bit. So I was able to go into an effect here, go noise reduction. You can denoise if there's just a funny sound. The computer, like a humming computer in the background. De-reverb, you know, that basically just takes out the echoes of a room with high ceilings and all that. And the parametric equalizer, for example, I'm able to go down and kind of, it's basically like the old EQs, but things on an old hi-fi where I can like lower the bass a little bit, take down if he's really essy and hissy and there's a lot of sibilance, I can pull that down. Okay. I could basically play around with his voice until I think it sounds as good as I'm going to get it. And I can do that on both of us separately and then boil it down when I'm happy. Again, if it's a stereo mix, I can only do, anytime I'm de-reverbing him, I'm de-reverbing me. Anytime I'm taking the bass out of his voice, I'm taking it out of my voice. And it's a bit of a mess. So that's why single track recording gives you so much power. First of all, to take out noises you don't want and to make voices as crisp as you can get them, okay? And it's very easy to do, but often it's not done. So my first tip is, when possible, always record each guest on separate audio tracks, okay? Any questions about that bit so far, or is that kind of clear enough? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay.
Sorry, Patrick. If we were to do that, say in like our studios, because that's where we'll be recording, that's something for engineering upstairs to track it into different tracks. Like,
yeah, and not every desk is set up like that. To be honest with you, do you know, when you're all in studio together, it's not as much of an issue, because as long as you have whoever's running the desk is working the faders the way they should be.
Yeah.
Okay. I think leaving all mics on all the time is not a good idea, because you're still going to get the hissy side, the people breathing and, you know, wheezing and all sorts of stuff. So whoever's running the desk should be really working hard at the faders, you know. The second option is that idea of, do they have options to have gates so that when someone's not talking into a mic properly, then it's off, so we won't pick up the breathing sounds. And then the third potential is that, could they switch on some sort of multi-track thing? But I know for a fact, say even in the main studios in Today FM, they don't have the capacity to multi-track record. So it may not be an issue. So faders might be your best friend.
Out of curiosity's sake, in your days in Beat, would you have ever recorded or set up recording in multi-track?
No.
Inside in the studio?
Nope. I remember, and even like from this is something I've only really learned in recent years, to be honest with you. I remember we did an OB, I'd say it was 2016 when I was working on The Last Word, and we went over to the New York to broadcast from like I think it was Donald Trump's first election. And we broadcast from a studio in New York, really proper studio. And he sent me the files. So we did like lots of in-house recordings there and interviews and stuff. And the guy who ran the studio sent me the files after, and I was saying like, hold on now, you're giving me two files here. One just has Matt's voice and the other just has the guest voice. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? And he goes, that's what you're supposed to do with that. That's the way it's supposed to be. I had no idea what he was talking about. And I just said, listen, will you just give me one file? Because that's what I'm used to. So it was never something that happened. But the more, and within the studio environment, it's not as important because you have someone there working the faders. But when it comes to remote recording and when it comes to recording out of studio, like I showed you that the Happy Pair recording the other day, sometimes the guest mic was much closer to the door and you'd hear the pesto trucks much louder in his mic than you would necessarily in things. So when the two lads were talking, I'd be able to pull down the sound. So basically, out of studio, podcast type recording and remote recording, it becomes a lot more important. So I only really picked up on it when I left the studio properly to go and do the stuff I'm doing now, if that makes sense. But it really, it's one of the things. So I've said it start with this bit because it will, I promise you, lift what you do in terms of the sound quality of podcast recording and remote recording, because it just gives you so much more control, and that's what it's all about. Okay, control over the sounds you want or don't want, control over the voices and how good they are before you mix them down into the one track. Okay.
Just on the point of gates, we had one in our, we call it Studio 2. It was a complete replica of Studio 1. It was the way it was built. So God forbid Studio 1 was gone, we could immediately, and with 2 clicks, go to Studio 2. But we had gated microphones, which was brilliant for exactly what you spoke about, that if you had 3 people and somebody said, yeah, actually, I was going to say that, then the mic kicked in, and it was brilliant. Not so much if you were recording music, as I discovered. I bring a band in, and somebody would switch on an amp or would play, and you wouldn't notice. Then all of a sudden you hear this clicking of somebody doing something that isn't musical, because the gates were too sensitive. They were set for voice. So a high-pitched thing like tuning a guitar, sometimes it would just open the mic, and then you're listening back with everything, as you say, boiled together, and you're going, where the hell is that coming from? I can't get rid of that. And I had the same experience as you, and I used a Zoom recorder, multi-track Zoom recorder on an event with 3 speakers, 3 people speaking, and I brought it back and I opened it up in Reaper I have here. I was going, oh my God, where? Oh, hold on. If I scoot along 30 seconds when the first person finishes speaking, oh, the next track down. Oh yeah, that was the second mic. Okay. I had oh my God, I've lost all hour and a half of that podcast. I forgot it was multi-track, you know.
Gotcha. That's that's the danger zone. Yeah, and you generally only make that mistake once.
Oh no, absolutely. I never want to have that feeling, because the next time I get that feeling, I'm going to the cardiac unit.
Yeah. There you go. We always want to avoid that. But good to note that. So interviews works nicely, not so much music. So when you're with the gates.